What's going on, everybody? It's your observant lineman, Uche Nwaneri. The Chicago Bears, looks like they already have a little bit of controversy stirring. There's a press conference here between Andy Dalton and the media. And, you know, this is something that you expect from the sports media. And by now, you know, I feel like a lot of people kind of recognize this pattern when it comes to QB controversies. You have the media that begins to kind of pit the quarterbacks against each other, or at least attempts to do so. But I think in this video clip you're going to see here, Andy Dalton does an excellent job of setting the framework for how he's approaching this season. And I think that it's important that we hear what he says, because he literally goes directly against the narrative that's really been pushed since Justin Fields was drafted into Chicago, that this was his team kind of superseding the fact that the Bears actually brought in Andy Dalton to be QB1. Like, they brought him in to be the starter. And this was before they ever decided to get Justin Fields. Now, obviously, huge pickup for them to get Justin Fields, but he's going to have to, you know, earn his keep. And there will be a time when it's Justin Fields' show and he can run the team and be the QB1. But I think this is an excellent retort from Andy Dalton. Let's take a listen. The man is not holding back how he feels about his future in Chicago.
I know who I am. I know who I was created to be. I know where my identity lies. And so do I want the fans behind me and this team and all that kind of stuff? Yes. Do I want them behind Justin? Absolutely, I do. But that's not my focus. I can't focus on all that right now. Like I've said before, Justin's going to have his time, and Justin's going to have a great career. But right now, it's my time, and so my focus is on being the best player I can be for this team and do everything I can to help this team win.
So, you know, right there, very telling, very confident, very wise, veteran quarterback. This is a QB1 that you want on your team. Andy Dalton had his fair share of inconsistencies in Cincinnati. I think we all know that. But the guy actually, you know, he played well for the majority of his time there. Something about the Bengals, Marvin Lewis at the helm back then, they just weren't able to get over the hump. I think we all saw that was the pattern that they were stuck in. They have a great regular season, and then they're out in the first round of the playoffs. But he has breathed new life into himself. He went to Dallas, and now he's here in Chicago. And I think that it's right to embrace him. Justin Fields will have a lot to learn from this guy. This is a guy who has a lot of wisdom. It's a guy who has a lot of experience. There's a lot that Justin Fields can learn from him. And also there is a level of humility that Justin Fields will learn from him. Because as we all know, just the other day, Justin Fields talked about how the game was slow to him. As if you're playing against NFL starters. That shows me that there's an arrogance there that needs to be tempered, or it will be tempered for him, you know, in the regular season when he becomes a starter at whatever point that may be. We saw it happen to Tua Tagovailoa. He made a comment about how the game isn't fast and this is going to be nothing for him. And the next thing you know, just like that, his ass was on the bench because he couldn't handle the speed. So there is going to be a learning curve for Justin Fields that he's going to have to go through. As a young player, there could be no better situation than to have a guy who has this many years, this many starts, this many successes, and has learned from his failures to come in and be the starter and teach you and show you how to do it. Because regardless of what you think about his career in terms of championships, Andy Dalton has had a successful career. He's played well and he's made a ton of money. This is a dude who came from TCU, not even a school that is considered a football powerhouse, and he's lasted in the NFL. So you got to give him respect for that. But not only that, also Baker Mayfield, another guy who has kind of been going through the same thing early in his career. He's a guy who a lot of people started to question because of him being seen as the game changer for the Cleveland Browns. And initially, he went through his ups and downs. He had his learning curves, his growing pains. And now we're seeing him mature and become a guy who let go of the arrogance and let go of always wanting to have something smart to say on Twitter or have some type of headline he could put out there, being in commercials all the time. Now he's become a humbled leader for his team who other players in the locker room look up to. And, you know, it's definitely a scenario that could have very much went the other way for him. But he has humbled himself. and he's become a great player for the Cleveland Browns. This franchise has never been at the level of prominence that it is right now in its entire history. And now Baker Mayfield is showing his support for Andy Dalton in saying what he said. Now, again, I talked about how the media in sports tries to pit players against each other because, I mean, what sells like controversy, right? So Baker Mayfield puts a post up, and it's really, he's telling the truth here. He's really giving us a blunt assessment of this article from Bleacher Report that says Bears Andy Dalton, Justin Fields will have a great career, but right now it's my time. And that if you read that at first glance without actually finding the context of his entire statement, then you would understand, or you would perceive it to be somewhat of shots fired at Justin Fields, because initially that's what I thought. But I went ahead and, reeled it back and said, let me listen to what this guy says. This is just one part, clearly. And you can tell it's one part because they have these single parentheses around my time. So they didn't really get the whole quote there. And that's obvious. So Baker Mayfield says, typical clickbait BS reporting. Quote the whole interview. Don't put this as a headline to try and stir the pot. Shake my damn head. And that's 100% truth. 100% truth. If you're going to put someone's quote out there, then put the whole quote out so people can understand. Because if you listen to what Andy Dalton's saying, he's really speaking from a very intelligent, very experienced standpoint. The wisdom that you accumulate as a player in his position, you see things a little bit differently, and he did, and that's why I really do appreciate what he was saying in this press conference, because it makes total sense for anybody who really understands how the dynamics of the quarterback position and all of the different variables about a player's career can affect the overall outcome. Justin Fields needs Andy Dalton right now. He does. Whether people believe it or not, he needs Andy Dalton, and he's lucky to have him. So let me know what you guys think. Leave your comments down below. Don't forget to hit that like button if you haven't already done so, and subscribe to the observant lineman Uche Nwaneri. I will catch you all on the next one. Peace.